And in business news, President Bola Tinubu says the collective action among governments, business leaders, civil societies, and the citizenry is crucial for economic stability as the nation strives towards prosperity. The president, represented by the head of service of the Federation, Mrs. Didi Walsin-Jack, said this at the Nigerian Institute of Management Chartered Annual National Management Conference, which held in Port Harcourt. The president notes that economic stability is not just solely an economic issue, but has direct correlation with national security. He said the nation is at the crossroad where the interplay between economic health and national security could not be overstated. The president said the nation must harness its collective expertise to develop robust policies that would stimulate economic growth while ensuring that the safety and security of citizens. While the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria has called for good corporate governance practices across all sectors of the Nigerian economy. The professionals say this is a catalyst for economic recovery, growth, and development. President of the Institute, Mr. Tijani Borodo, made the position at a press conference ahead of the Institute's 2024 Annual Directors Conference, which will hold in Lagos. Mr. Borodo noted that the failure of corporate governance has contributed to Nigeria's economic challenges, especially the inactivity of the state-managed oil refineries. He underscores the critical role that corporate governance plays in advancing economic transformation and national development.
The critical role that corporate governance plays in advancing economic transformation and national development. In the face of ongoing economic challenges, it is essential that we recognize how sound governance practices foster accountability, sustainability, and innovation within our organizations, in particular, and our nation in general.
The committee looked at what is it that's going to be on everybody's minds today. It's about the recovery. It's about growth. Where do we go from here? Now transformation is happening, and it might not be sitting well with a lot of the businesses. How do we start to talk about what is needed as far as governance to make that happen? See, governance brings sustainability and growth, because you're taking away the biases and you're bringing in those things that is pertinent to growing your business and the economy.
Asian stocks rose to their highest in more than 2.5 years, heartened by more than 2.5 years, heartened by broad stimulus measures from China, while expectations from the U.S. rate cuts keep risk sentiments upwards. And the dollar under pressure. In an eagerly awaited press conference, China's top financial regulators unveiled measures to spur sluggish economic growth, cutting back reserves by 50 basis points. This move sent Chinese stocks higher, with the blue chip index rising 2.4%, while the Shanghai Composite Index also gained 2.38%. Hong Kong Hang Seng Index jumped over 3.2% to a 4-month high as MSCI's broadest index of Asian Pacific shares outside of Japan clinched 0.92% higher. European stock markets also pointed to a stronger open, with Euro Stock 50 features and German DAX features 0.5% higher, while FTSE features were up 0.35%. Chinese stocks have been laggards in the region, with the index down 4% in the year, hitting the multi-year lows. Japan's Nikkei rose 0.8% and touched a near 3-week high, while the yuan was weaker at 144.11 per dollar. The U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. Antony Blinken, is urging for responsible development and use of AI. Mr. Blinken disclosed this in a ministerial event at the ongoing 79th United Nations General Assembly in New York, announcing that $100 million investment in AI technologies for developing countries. The Secretary of State, alongside the OpenAI, Microsoft, IBM, Amazon, Google, Meta, Nvidia, and Anthropic, recommits to advancing AI technology and availability to countries in the global south.
This is one of the events that really stuck with me, because I could feel the energy, the palpable enthusiasm, the belief that AI can be such a force multiplier in actually moving forward on sustainable development goals. This year, that future promise is increasingly a present-day possibility. But if we're going to realize the full potential of AI to improve the lives of people around the world, that requires accelerating our efforts to ensure that this technology is genuinely inclusive. Making this technology more inclusive, it's not an act of generosity. It's in our national interest and in the interests of our firms, of our entrepreneurs, of our investors.
China's central bank has unveiled its biggest stimulus package since the pandemic to pull the economy out of the deflationary move and back towards the government's growth target. The broader than expected package offering more funding and interest rate cuts marks the latest attempt to policymakers to restore confidence in the world's second largest economy after a slew of disappointing data raised concerns of a prolonged structural slowdown. But analysts question how productive the People's Bank of China's liquidity injections would be, given extremely weak credit demand from businesses and consumers, and noted the absence of any policy aimed at supporting real economic activity. Capital economic analyst Mr. Julian Evans Pritchard says this is the most significant PBOC stimulus package since the early days of the pandemic, but more fiscal stimulus may be needed to return growth to its official target of 5%. And Australia's central bank today held interest rates steady as expected and reiterated their policy needed to stay tight to bring inflation to a heel. The hawkish stance sent the Australian dollar 0.4% higher to 67 cents and the highest this year, and markets spared the chances of a December rate cut to 59% from 64% before the decision. Wrapping up its September policy meeting, the Reserve Bank of Australia kept rates at a 12-year high of 4.35%, adding that the policy would have to be sufficiently restrictive to ensure inflation returns to target. The bank said headline inflation would decline for the first time. Underlying inflation is more indicative of inflation momentum, and it remains too high, largely similar to the one in August. The RBA has kept rates steady since November, judging that the cash rate of 4.35% is restrictive enough to bring inflation to its target band of 2 to 3%, while preserving employment gains. Crude oil prices rose today on the news of monetary stimulus from top importer China and concerns that tensions in the Middle East could hit regional supply, while a major hurricane loomed over the United States, the world's biggest crude producer. The U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude is up 1.92% to sell at $71.72. Brent crude futures experienced an upward review of 1.73% to sell at $75.18 per barrel. Bonny Light sells for $78.62 with a downward price review of 2.84%. And for the OPEC basket, crude oil dealers are offering $74.74 with a downward price margin of 0.55%.